Anyway, so we're sort of left off at the biology part, the evolution part, the how did we get here stuff, and now the question is what do we do about being here, and what are the big philosophical questions to be answered? And philosophers will make you think it's all complicated. That we're going somewhere, that the human mind has a mission. That it's going to some better place, and it's kind of nonsense. We're just the new model. We're just the present day model, the modern model of an old clunker, and the clunker is a DNA molecule that has just one mission, consumption, reproduction. It's two missions, but whatever, you get my point. The game is reproduction, and that's what we are built by. It's just we're a variation on that design, and we have some fancier features, but that's all there are. They're just features designed to make us good consumers and reproducers. Good in the sense successful, and successful sometimes isn't just bulk numbers, it's subtlety. It's having an ability to capitalize unique niche kind of environments and to exploit them, and that's the human animal's pretty good at. It lives like a carnivore. It lives sort of at the top of the food chain. It lives on the highest level of the biosphere, the most complex or dense level of it. But a lot of larger organisms have to do that, and they don't have our sophisticated intelligence. So it should be understood in the context that we were given this intelligence maybe 70,000, maybe 200,000 years ago. And it took us a long time to make it into something. We made it into something by acquiring knowledge, and we fed this brain we have with that new knowledge about what the world is made of, how gravity works, all these little nuances. We found out the world was round. We found out where we are and what we're doing here, and and what we do with those questions is part of. There's this subtle complexity in terms of the mixture of our psychology with our philosophy, because we want to validate our desire, but if you're really going to be philosophical about it, it's really all got to be the other way around. It's got to be the mind or the intelligence analyzing the psychology, and not the psychology telling the philosophy what it should be believing. So we see all the wishful thinking that's out there. The religions are all wishful thinking. It's all a daydream, a fantasy, a fairy tale. It's all just an adult version of Santa Claus and Easter rabbits and all of that. It's a nursery rhyme. It's, however you want to look at it, it's something that pleases the psychology, but it's just a lie. It's a lie we tell ourselves to say to make life more purposeful, more meaningful, to excuse all of its flaws. To wipe away the pain it might cause if you didn't have the realization that you're on some grander mission, heading for some better place. So anyway, if you just analyze the facts, okay, we're just a consuming machine, and part of that consumption now has been turned into these drives and desires we have, these more developed, more eccentric needs, and they appear to make us look sophisticated, but they're really crude at their roots. Jealousy, desire, gluttony. I mean, we go down the list of all these different aberrations, these things we identify in our character as motivating factors for human beings, and most of them are not flattering, and most of them just focus on this. They're just another word for addiction. We are addicted to things, and most of those things that we're addicted to either have been in the past or are now conducive to our survival, will make it more possible for us to succeed into the future. And that's the biology working again. That's the biology controlling us again, the DNA molecule owning us again, are continuing to. And so philosophy, the real question is here you have this sensitive organism, these organisms capable of being harmed. They have this real vulnerability, and we've got to try to create systems. We've got laws, rules, goals that somehow make it possible for us to optimize the success for each one of those individuals. There's really no success in having any failures, and it's certainly better to have fewer failures than more failures. The more we can reduce the amount of suffering or harm that's endured, the better. But unfortunately, we design policy based on individual ambitions, individual desires, and so people endorse things like their nepotism, which is just a contrivance of the biology yelling again. You don't love your children because they're better than somebody else's children. You love them because of an irrational attachment, an addiction. And that's all. That's all it is. It's an illusion in your own brain, but it has no meaning as a truth. And we have to step beyond those kind of things when we are designing social policy. And until human beings are willing to do that, we're going to have very bad social policy that does create a lot of harm and suffering and pain that is excessive and unnecessary. But in the end, the ultimate question is what are we accomplishing? What can we accomplish? And the sad truth is it looks like it's a pretty futile pursuit. All we're chasing is desire imposed on us by a DNA molecule 2 billion years ago. And without that desire, there really isn't much purpose. There's nothing to be accomplished here beyond the fact of fixing whatever's left here to be fixed. So if there are sentient creatures in the universe, yes, they need to be cared for. So that's always a job worth doing. But let's say we cleaned up that problem, there wouldn't be anything to accomplish. It's only fixing what's broken has value. There's no something better to build. There's no there's nothing. There's just simply nothing to accomplish. You can look at past civilizations and look what they did with their surplus. They couldn't think of anything brilliant to do with it. All they did was they built huge pyramids over hundreds of years for no point at all, or purpose. We just waste our surplus because we don't know what to do with it. I mean, you either serve the human beings that exist and their needs, or there's nothing. There's really nothing to do here. There's nothing to accomplish but to serve desire. And the simplest question you can ask yourself is what desire is in the universe? What need exists that we're satisfying by being here? If planet Earth was to just disappear, what deprivation would exist in the universe? There'd be nothing to be deprivated. There'd be no sensitive creature to be harmed, and therefore there'd be nothing. It would mean nothing in terms of, it couldn't be a negative. And that's just the sad truth of our existence. We are not here to accomplish anything but to satisfy the mission of a DNA molecule. That's our origin, and unfortunately that origin doesn't provide any better destiny. So all this is just an elaborate chase. We're just on this chasing this thing called satisfaction. And unless we have the dissatisfaction or the deprivation that motivates us to chase, there's no chase to be chased. We're not going to play the game. We're not going to have an appetite for it. It's only the DNA molecule that gives us that appetite. And that has, in my opinion, a substantial philosophical consequence. And all I'm trying to get to here is that we have to have a little bit of pause about this whole idea of perpetuating, especially a very sloppy management of the human condition. We've got to take some responsibility for it. Life isn't free. We know there's suffering out there. We know harm exists. We know pain exists in other human beings, and we've got to optimize it. If we don't do better than this, we're not doing good enough. And there is such a thing as enough. There's got to be a point where we are dissatisfied enough to say that it's unacceptable, and it doesn't seem to be a word that human beings really take seriously. But there are circumstances that are unacceptable, and unfortunately our addiction, our desire, makes us incapable of ever seeing that. and that's something that does have to be changed. I mean, in the it's all about how people are looking at the world, and like I said, it's not that complicated. It only becomes complicated when they create some artificial ambition for the human race. Then of course it gets complicated, because then you're chasing something that doesn't exist, and so you have to create a fake world for that to exist in. And that's basically what most people are doing. They're chasing an illusion of purpose, and the only real purpose you can have here is to care for the other sentient creatures that live here. There's really nothing else that has any value. So if you can't do that, then you can't really be a very functional human being. All you can be is a consumer, a taker. And the only thing you can give really is consideration to the other vulnerable things existing around you.